Good morning. How are y'all doing? Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. About 16 hours ago, special agents from my office arrested the mayor of Aberdeen, Mississippi. So what we found was that the mayor of Aberdeen, Maurice Howard, was going before his board, and of course that means he was going before the voters, and he was telling them that he was going to be going on certain trips and official functions. The board was giving him advance checks. So they were paying him beforehand before going to these events. He would take those checks, put them into his personal bank account, and then not go on the trips. So he found a way, by doing that over and over again, he found a way to give himself a nice little second paycheck. He was also using his official vehicle for personal purposes, sometimes out of state. So yesterday we sought an indictment and arrested the mayor and took him in. So why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story to lead off with because last night I was talking to the agents who executed that arrest, and I can tell you sometimes people say, well, why is it that the state auditor's office needs folks who carry a badge or wear a gun? And without going into too much detail, I can tell you that sometimes they have to arrest people that don't want to be arrested, and sometimes they have to do things, put themselves in harm's way, things that you and I don't have to do, fortunately, in our day jobs. So I want to say thank you to those investigators for doing what they do every single day. The other reason I raised this is to play out this little thought experiment with you. Imagine that there's some business somewhere, maybe they're in a state that has higher cost of living or higher cost of doing business, and they think, you know what, I want to put a distribution center somewhere in the South. So they start looking around and they look maybe at Northeast Mississippi. And they look and they say, well, you know, Northeast Mississippi's got a lot going for it. It's got good infrastructure, good roads, a couple of airports, got the Ten-Tom, got good energy, good cheap energy thanks to TVA, got good public schools, got good weather most of the year, got a lot of the fundamentals for growing a business. But maybe they take a moment and they look and they see that every single year, Mississippi is always ranking at the top of states for public corruption. There's a study that comes out every so often from the University of Illinois at Chicago that always puts us in the top 5 for public corruption. So maybe they look at that and they think, you know what, I've heard about the games you might have to play down in Mississippi in order to bring a business there. I've heard about the things you might have to say or do to get your permits or whatever it is. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to put myself in that position. You and I both know, everybody in this room knows, that we cannot afford for that sentence to be said a single time. We cannot afford for that thought to be thought if we're going to grow at our potential. So that's what motivates us in the state auditor's office every single day. Every time that we arrest somebody for embezzling your money, every time we put somebody's mugshot up, every time we use somebody as an example of what can go on here, we know that we're working to make this state achieve its potential. We know that we're working to make sure that people understand we're out there looking and we're out there holding folks accountable, and that you can't steal public money and that public corruption is not going to be tolerated. Some of y'all were at Neshoba and you heard me talk about 2 individuals we arrested at Coahoma Community College. So 2 folks who had embezzled nearly $1 million from Coahoma Community College. That was money that could have been used for workforce development at Coahoma Community College. That's money that could have been used to make our labor force stronger, make our economy stronger, but we lost that money because of that embezzlement. We cannot afford for that to happen a single time. So my point really simply is this: every single day in the auditor's office we are working on that specific issue because we know that corruption hurts economic growth. That has been proven in the literature. We know that corruption hurts economic growth. Every single time, on average, the median fraud scheme in the United States costs the entity that suffers from it about $108,000. Now you think about that. Every single time this happens, the median number is $108,000. We can't afford to have those kinds of losses. And that $108,000, that doesn't take into account the times when a business says, well, I'm just not going to go there because I heard about the fraud schemes that happen in that state. So that's what we're working on. That's what we're working on every single day on your behalf. In addition to stopping corruption, we all know that that's not the only ingredient for economic growth. There's things like infrastructure, things like public education. So I wanted to announce to you today that over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, I'm going to focus my energy and my attention on those two issues specifically, on infrastructure, on public education. By the end of this year, my office is going to release what we believe will be the most comprehensive performance audit of the Mississippi Department of Transportation in the history of the Mississippi Department of Transportation. We have pulled in national experts from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They have helped departments of transportation all around the world, and they're going to write a playbook. So for anybody who's coming in, the new leadership at MDOT, if they want to do things to improve our efficiency, to make our road and bridge dollars go a little bit further, they're going to have a blueprint right on their desk day one, right when they walk in. I'm also going to focus on public education. We had some great public education news this week about our kids' NAEP scores. Teachers and parents and administrators deserve a ton of credit for doing what they did over the course of the past year. But we all know that if we spent money in the best possible place, we could have gotten even more out of those students. We could have gotten even more. So several months ago, I released a report that said that over the last 10 years, we have increasingly spent money outside the classroom. In fact, administrative spending has gone up in Mississippi over the last 10 years faster than instructional spending. Over the last 10 years, if you adjust for inflation, our spending on administrative salaries has gone up by about 10%. Our spending on teacher salaries has gone down by about 3%. Now, when you look around the world, you can look at a bunch of different school systems. The successful ones are really different. Sometimes they have big classroom sizes, sometimes they have small classroom sizes, big schools, small schools, unusual curricula, traditional curricula. But the thing that good school systems have in common around the world is that they put money where it matters the most. They put money into the teachers so that you can get the best possible people in front of the kids every single day. I know that because my mom was a public school teacher for 35 years. Her parents, both of them, were public school teachers. I went to public school from kindergarten all the way through when I graduated from a public university. I took my mom for 2 years. I was her worst student. She hated every second of it. But every time I produce a report like that, there's going to be some folks who get a little uncomfortable, and I can always tell. There's some folks who say, well, he's attacking public schools again. It's kind of hard to make that case. I used my Mississippi public school education to go win a Rhodes Scholarship and go to Harvard. So if you want to try to make the case that I hate public schools, give it a shot, I guess. That'll be your thing. You can give it a shot. I don't think it's going to work. My point is this, really. Every single day in the auditor's office, we are doing things that are hard. We are doing those hard things because hard things are the things that make a difference. So we're trying to put a stop to public corruption, and it's difficult. We try to shine a light on how money is being spent, even if it makes some folks uncomfortable. And the reason you do those things, the reason we try to do those things every day is because we know that doing the hard things, the things that make a difference, those are the things that are going to open the door to greater economic growth. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be your state auditor and to do this for another 4 years. This is the honor of my professional life. Thank you. It's good to see you today.